Well, major news to start the day. Really pretty big news here in Robert Mueller's Trump-Russia investigation, because we learned yesterday that former Trump chief strategist Steve Bannon, of Breitbart fame, of chief propagandist fame, of being one of Trump's clearly closest inner circle advisors fame, was not only subpoenaed by Robert Mueller's Russia investigation, he showed up to a House panel which also requested his presence and refused to answer a ton of questions that he was asked. This initially started last week. Last week, Stephen Bannon was subpoenaed, notified of this subpoena from the Robert Mueller investigation. Then he testified yesterday before a House panel. So let's first stop and talk about the grand jury piece with Robert Mueller's investigation. If you testify before a grand jury, and we've gone through this routine before, if a grand jury exists, it's because Robert Mueller believes that crimes may have been committed. And the point of the grand jury is to figure out whether particular charges should be brought based on the evidence that exists and on the testimony of grand jury witnesses. So that alone is a major revelation, because it's the first time that at least we're aware of that Robert Mueller is using a grand jury to subpoena someone from Trump's inner circle to get information from them. Yesterday, we also learned about this additional subpoena that exists from the House panel, and Stephen Bannon testified there yesterday. And yesterday, there were 10 hours of questions to Stephen Bannon behind closed doors with the House Intelligence Committee. Reports are that it became significantly argumentative, would be one way to say it, and that Bannon said over and over again that he simply couldn't answer many of the questions, or that he wouldn't answer many of the questions because of, again, executive privilege. And of course, there are immediately legal questions about that, because executive privilege is not necessarily Bannon's to assert, but there's legal disagreement about that. So I don't want to focus on that too much. But what this tells us about the nature of the questions from the House Intelligence Panel is that they're digging very deeply into direct Trump material. And right after these 10 hours of questioning yesterday, Democrats on the committee came out and said, we believe that the White House actually got to Steve Bannon to prevent him from talking about the topics that we were asking him and that we brought up. The good news, if you're the Trump administration, is that Bannon was nothing more than a coffee boy, basically an intern with no knowledge or access to anything important, right? Otherwise, this might really be bad and a concern for Trump. And we've seen that attempt to frame everybody, every single person who has either been indicted or become the focus of this investigation or has since been fired or resigned. They really had minor roles. Michael Flynn, well, yeah, I mean, he was national security advisor, but only for a few weeks, and then he was forced to resign. Sean Spicer, yeah, from day one as press secretary, he went out and told lie after lie after lie. But listen, it's just the press secretary after all. Papadopoulos, Trump barely even knew this guy. And of course, the picture came out of him at a meeting. And then Paul Manafort, he was like a nobody. He was tangentially involved with the campaign.
But that being said, I do get the sense that he's not directly implicated in the Russia scandal. He did join the Trump campaign in August of 2016, the last few months. But I also get the sense that if things Russia were being discussed in a meeting, say, he wouldn't get up and leave. I think he would want to hear the juicy details.
What you're saying is actually part of the analysis that some legal experts are putting out there, which is that you don't subpoena to a grand jury the target of an investigation. So what we can read a lot into this, right? We can read into this that these are signals from Mueller that Bannon is going to have to tell the truth and come clean, because you will go to jail, or at least risk going to jail, if you lie to the FBI or to investigators. But the other signal that comes from this relates to what Pat just said, which is that if Bannon were a target of this investigation, he would not be subpoenaed to testify before a grand jury in this way. And that's indicative, as the legal experts are saying, that Bannon is not a target of this investigation. And that doesn't surprise me, because you've said before that you actually don't think Bannon was wrapped up in this Russia stuff. I generally have no reason to believe so either. So that is definitely something that we can glean for this. If you're Bannon, what do you do, right? On the one hand, I guess that you joined up with Trump maybe because you believed in his potential to change politics in the US for the better or something. Maybe Bannon just joined up for personal gain, greed, self-aggrandizement. We don't know, but we know he's had a pseudo falling out with Trump. Trump says Bannon lost his mind when he left the White House. Kind of convenient timing, right? Because now Steve Bannon will have the opportunity to truly screw Trump over, depending on what he knows. And this would be like the epic power alpha move for Bannon, right? Trump slams Bannon publicly, and then Bannon goes to the grand jury, comes clean on everything, and he can actually say, listen, this is a grand jury. I'm not going to perjure myself and lie, but we know Trump does expect his loyal, subservient staffers to do that. We know that Michael Flynn was involved in lies. Jeff Sessions, as his attorney general, has been a lie machine. I actually think Trump does expect and demand that these people lie to cover him.
Yeah, or Bannon could even flip on Kushner, too. You remember Bannon and Kushner had that feud that went on and on for months in the White House. I mean, Kushner didn't like Bannon because of the Muslim ban. Bannon didn't like Kushner because he's a Jew, I guess, and a globalist.
Was that what? I thought it was more just that he thought he had no business being involved, which, by the way, Bannon was right that Kushner had no business being involved in an administration, but neither does Bannon. That's the funny thing. Last thought on this. Every time there's a big step forward in the Trump-Russia investigation, an indictment, a guilty plea, blockbuster documents, you get more people saying things like, you're still paying attention to this Russia nonsense. There's nothing there. When you hear that next time, and if you spend 30 seconds on YouTube today or on the internet, on internet news websites, you'll see it. Step back for a second and just think of the trajectory of this entire thing for the last 12 to 18 months. First, it was there's never going to be an investigation. Well, Comey's looking into it. He's not going to find anything. Well, Comey's been fired by Trump to stop the investigation. Mueller has been appointed special prosecutor. Nothing will come of that. Well, then you've got the Manafort indictment and the Papadopoulos indictment. Well, that's as far as it's going to go, and it has nothing to do with anything anybody did while working for Trump. Well, then you had the Michael Flynn indictment, who was Trump's national security advisor. Listen, he was a small player in the whole thing. It's completely meaningless. The investigation is going to be done by Christmas 2017 or New Year's Day 2018. And now the epitome of the inner circle member for the Trump team, Steve Bannon, is subpoenaed. Still nothing to see here. Clearly, it's going nowhere, right? Ignore those people. Allow this thing to run its course. And then there will be plenty of time to look back and Monday morning quarterback everything that happened. The video you just finished watching was made possible by you through the membership program. You can sign up for membership at davidpakman.com/membership. We are viewer-supported independent media. You can use the coupon code IVoted17 for a 40% discount off of your membership.